Hello, everyone. Good evening. Thank you so much. My name is Nikki DeLeon Martin. I'm the Deputy Director and Chief Advancement Officer here at the museum. And I'm very thrilled about this event. I'll have to talk louder. Sorry, I don't have a very loud voice. Oh, there we go. Okay, I guess I do. All right. So I just wanted to thank you all for being here tonight for our Women-Powered The Choices That Define Leadership event. And I'm really proud to see so many people here. It makes me really happy. Before I dive in, I just have a couple of housekeeping items. First, our hope for tonight is that everybody can leave their lives, to some degree, outside of this room. So to help us do that, I'm going to ask you to check your phones one last time to make sure they're silenced. If you are confident your phone is already silenced, that means your phone will definitely ring. So check it one more time. And if you're feeling extra adventurous, you could even turn it off. I promise it will be okay. All right, our panel conversation this evening is going to be about an hour, and then we will have 20 to 30 minutes for questions at the end. We will have staff roving the room with mics, so we'll bring the questions to you. And then lastly, your panel ticket tonight entitled you to complimentary admission to Barbie, a cultural icon, and the power of pink. So be sure, it'll be open a little bit after the end of this event, so be sure to drop in there and see all the Barbies ever. So, tonight is the first of what I hope is going to be an annual event for the museum. Yes. And it's our first time doing an event focused on women's leadership, so we're really proud of it. And I wanted to start by saying we've set ourselves up with a very high bar, with amazing speakers at our sip and share and an amazing panel of women tonight. And I just want to thank all of them for volunteering their time to the museum. Some of the most dynamic women who are leading organizations in Arizona are represented tonight, and so we're very spoiled to have them with us. And a quick shout out, I oversee fundraising here at the museum, so I have to shout out my amazing sponsors. Austin Commercial LP, yeah. Bell Bank, my sister's closet, and my friend Vanessa Ruiz is also one of our sponsors. So now it's my pleasure to turn it over to Vanessa. Not only does she serve on the museum's board of trustees, she's also an Emmy Award-winning broadcast journalist who today can be seen as an anchor on PBS NewsHour West. And on top of all of that, she is also the Vice President of Educational Outreach at Arizona State University. So absolutely no free time at all. And I'm really grateful to her for being here tonight. So friends, without further ado, my friend Vanessa Ramirez. Thank you.
Thank you, Nikki. And I have 2 young children to add to that mix. So if any of you out there know what that's like, you know that that is really what takes up the bulk of your time, attention, and worries. So thank you again. It's such a pleasure to be here. First and foremost, I do also want to call out and provide kudos to the museum staff. Tonight's event, I hope you enjoyed it. I saw a lot of energy out in those tables. I hope you found those discussions engaging and enlightening. I know that I was overhearing some of them, and I loved hearing what was being talked about. And again, kudos to the museum for doing this event tonight. I'll share with you all that the fact that this was a sold-out event, okay? This sold out in 1 week. In 1 week, It's the first time the museum does something like this. I was sharing with some others earlier. I was at another event last week put on by another organization. This event was on a Monday morning at 8 a.m. And it was also focused on female leadership and other women supporting other women. And that event was also sold out. And so what does that say to you? What that says to me is that there is a hunger. There's a hunger and there's a need in our community to create more of these spaces where we women and our allies, thank you, gentlemen, I see you out there in the audience, can really come together and talk about what is it really like to be a woman in 2024 with all of the things that comes, both personally and professionally. So I'm putting it out there into the universe. Let's create more of these spaces. With that, we have a powerhouse panel of women joining us today. So we only have about an hour. Let's get to it. I want to dive right in. So I'm going to ask each of the panelists, please introduce yourselves, your name, what do you do, what is your title, but more so, what do you do? Because sometimes titles are not descriptive enough. And then a little bit of a curveball, and please don't answer because you were invited to be here tonight. Why are you here tonight? What brought you here tonight? I know we're all busy. We have a million things going on. As Nikki said, we're all donating our time and expertise. So there's some real impetus as to why you're here. Damita.
Good afternoon, evening, everyone. How's everybody doing? It's truly an honor to be here. I am Dr. Damita Kaloostian, and I have the proud privilege of serving as Interim Vice President of Student Affairs at Scottsdale Community College, home of the Fighting Artichokes. So, my job really is oversight of all the student support services at Scottsdale Community College. So we're that front door experience for students from the parking lot till they get into the classroom. So admissions, financial aid, veteran services, athletics, disability resources, all of those areas fall under my purview. Why I'm here, quite frankly, a really good friend of mine asked me to be here, and the power of sisterhood is longstanding, and so when you get the call, you show up. But in addition to that, I'm always happy to be in a place and space that celebrates women. So thank you for having me.
See? Ask for help. I'm supposed to follow you each time. It's going to be a long night. Good evening. I'm Bettina Nava. I am the principal or owner of Nexus Strategy Group, which is my new shingle that I just hung. Yeah, I'm excited. And we are a communications firm, but I think a little different than maybe some traditional communications firms. I really look for clients that are reflective of an ethos that really somehow are in the marathon. I'm looking for marathon people are going to improve quality of life and just broaden the table. So that's what I'm always looking for. And our communications really are, we're using data, but we're trying to move hearts and minds so that it's building of a bigger table. And why am I here? Also because Nikki called. And you show up for your sisters, you really do. But I'm here to learn. I just want to be illuminated. That's why I'm here.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Sheryl Palmer. It's a real pleasure to be here. I am the CEO of Taylor Morrison. That's a home building company. We build communities across the U.S. And what we really do is create place for families, for children to grow up. And so even though we're a home builder, I really look at us as a community builder because those are the memories. If you think back to things that happened in your childhood, you think about your home, you're playing with the other kids in the neighborhood. So that's what I get to do, and I love it every day. I am here. There is a trend here because my friend Jordan Rose, who I think is just the women of all women, asked me to be here. So here I am, and excited to have a chat with all of you.
So Sheryl, she's incredibly humble. I mean, she's the president of the largest publicly traded home builder in the United States of America. she's my hero. Yeah, she's literally my hero. She's an amazing person. My name's Jordan Rose, and I am the founder and president of what's now the largest woman-founded law firm in the Southwest. So. And two of my folks that are on our team are here, so thanks for being here. I really appreciate that. We're a full-service law firm, and then I also own a traffic engineering firm and a media relations firm that does newsletters mainly for us, and an AI metaverse-related company that builds things on the metaverse. And I love what I get to do all day. And I'm here because when I was growing up, or when I was a younger lawyer, I didn't have any women lawyers who were my mentors. They were kind of adverse to me, gotta be honest with you. Nobody was really that nice, and no one really tried to help me. And so I promised myself that I would not do that, and that I would try to mentor young women at every opportunity I could. So whenever I get to speak to really anyone about how you can be all you can be if you're being yourself, I'd like to do that.
Hi, I'm Kim Rimza, and I am president and managing director of Rimza Family Office. So I recently retired a couple of years ago from corporate America, and I was the EVP of the Western region for a very large, probably the largest food service equipment company in the nation. So I'm enjoying this new role, kind of managing our family businesses. I'm here not only because Jordan asked me, but I'm here because who wouldn't want to be here when you look at an audience like this of women that want to learn more about leadership? Wow, that's really fantastic. And I'm also here because I have three of the most important women in my lives, my two daughters and my daughter-in-law. So very blessed to have these great women here. So thank you.
This is a tough act to follow already. So I'm Beth McMullen. I actually work for Avnet. I'm the Senior Vice President of Global Operations. How many people know Avnet because of what we do versus how many people know Avnet because we now sponsor the Diamondbacks and we have our patch on there? So we are one of the world's largest technology distributors. We're the largest publicly traded operation in the Valley. We have more employees. We're a Fortune 200 company. I was going to say, and I want to thank my Avnet peeps for being here and helping with this event. I have been in the Valley probably 24 years. The reason that I am at this event, aside from the fact that Rita introduced me to Nikki, and Nikki and I hit it off, and Nikki invited me, it is a great event. But when I first moved here, I worked for an organization and I traveled. I was just sharing with Kim. I traveled all the time. I literally traveled 3 weeks of every month, which was phenomenal for the first 3 years that I lived here, and then I got laid off. And I realized I knew no one in the Valley. So this is an opportunity, similar to what Vanessa said, about how we build an infrastructure. I would not be where I am today, either from a professional perspective or a personal perspective, without an infrastructure. So this is building our infrastructure. So thank you.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Olga Viso. I'm the Seelig Family Chief Curator and Director of Curatorial Affairs here at the Phoenix Art Museum. And Nikki is the glue, obviously, to all of this. I'll answer first the question of just, why wanting to be here. When we first put the Barbie, a cultural icon exhibition on the schedule, Nikki had this vision right away. What a great opportunity to bring women together. As the
Chief Curator here. I have the pleasure of working with the entire curatorial team at the museum to shape the exhibitions, stored the collections, and the artistic program here. And so it's a wonderful team. I've been here a little over a year, but I've worked in museums for 30 years. I have run museums, and a couple of years ago, I kind of stepped away from the executive leadership role to really work with leaders. I worked at ASU, helping to develop a program to support emerging professionals of color in the museum field and really to help accelerate career advancement. And for me, that's just such important work and value. And I wish I had had this kind of forum when I was starting in the field 30 years ago. So more to that infrastructure and that ecosystem, because it's so important to support one another, because women weren't so supportive of one another 30 years ago, as you said, Jordan.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Olga, and to the rest of our panel. I hope you see that what has been assembled here today is an incredible panel of women from all walks of life, all professional backgrounds, circumstances, and that was very intentionally done. So my hope is that each and every one of you walks out of here today having connected with something that you can take home with you. So let's dive in, because I know you're here for the goods. So, Beth, I'm going to start with you. And the way I like to lead panels, by the way, is very conversational. So if any of the panelists have anything else that you'd like to add to a question that I'm asking someone in particular, please don't hesitate to also jump in. Here's my question to you, Beth, and I can see you all the way down there. So what is your definition of a leader? And what has shaped your understanding of what it means to lead?
I think the most important thing in being a leader, or what shapes your understanding of being a leader, is one, if you genuinely are sincere about wanting to help and grow both yourself and your team, but it's much more important to define what the followers are. Because everybody spends a lot of time saying, okay, well, I'm a leader, so everybody come with me, and I want to grow this organization and grow this task and finish this. But it really is important to grow new leaders. And I think if you're committed to turning around and saying, I want to be the type of leader and the type of person that really wants to be replaced, that's my definition of a leader. I don't want my job where I am today to be today. It's great for today. What does tomorrow bring? But more importantly, who's going to be there for tomorrow?
Sheryl, can you talk to us a little bit about what was the first opportunity that you had the chance to step up and lead? I think we all, if we've gone through that moment in our professional careers, we remember a very distinct moment where we were called, right, to step up and lead, whether it was in your career or life. And what lessons have you gathered from that experience that have helped you in your success later on?
Wow, great question. I think if I were to pull like that moment where I had to really appreciate the difference between management and leadership, was very early in my career. I had come out of marketing for Del Webb Corporation. I was in marketing, but the corporate thing wasn't my thing because I had come from an advertising agency and I felt it was a little restrictive. And I was going to leave, and somebody asked me to go out and be a sales manager. And I had never sold, and this is a long time ago, probably 30-some years ago. And all of a sudden, as a 25, 26-year-old girl who had never sold, I went into Sun City West, which is about 40 miles west of here. And I had 30 salespeople that were probably all in their 50s and 60s. Because they were selling to active adults, and they knew how to sell, I didn't. So how can I become a resource? How can I make myself, help them be better? Because I couldn't tell them how to sell. And that was really when I recognized how you have to use your gifts, surround yourself with the best people, and be a resource. It's very similar to what we just heard about the need to help others and make a difference for them. And you build those relationships one at a time. And as they became successful, those relationships continue to build. And that, I think, has taught me the meaning of humility, in corporate America, and it's far and few between. And the sense of surrounding yourself with people that are just so good at what they do that all tides bring everybody up.
Thank you for that, Sheryl. I'll just add to that. If there's one piece of wisdom that I could impart, especially for our younger female professionals in the room, is don't be afraid to ask questions, and don't think that you have to know everything all the time, because that's not realistic. I know I'll be the first one to raise my hand and say, I think for a long time, I really believed that I had to know all the answers, and if I didn't know an answer, I had to figure it out on my own, and that's just not the case.
Curiosity is an amazing trait.
100%. So another thing I've heard, particularly from younger female professionals, and just younger women in general, is sometimes when they are in the workforce or they come into a new role or even in their existing role, maybe they're one of the younger ones in the room, and they feel that. Can you share a little bit about perhaps some strategies or things that you've done in your career thinking back that have helped you gain additional confidence when stepping into boardrooms, when stepping into meetings, or meeting with colleagues who are just older and perhaps have been in that company or business longer than you have? And this is really for all the panelists, but Jordan, I'm looking at you too.
You were looking at me, okay. Yeah, I think you have to be confident, and here's my secret, don't let it leave the room, but be confident that if you don't know something that somebody asks you, that you can figure it out, right? And there's like 100% chance that if you ask me a question right now, I can figure it out, whether I know it right off the bat or whether it takes me an hour that I go to the bathroom and go to ChatGPT or call the really smart lawyer in my office, But there's like no chance if you have any brain cells that you can't figure something out and give an answer. So I think because you can know that, and you really need to just lie to yourself if you don't believe me. Just lie to yourself. You can know anything, and then you can feel confident, right? Because if you walk into a room and you just feel like, you know what, I got this, whatever they tell me, and if somebody says to you something, you say, and you have no idea what they're talking about. You say, wow, you know what, that is an amazing question, and I don't ever want to tell you something that I don't know for sure. So give me until tomorrow and I'll get back to you. And then you go stay up all night and figure it out. But you can feel 100% confident in your ability because you all can do that, right? I mean, there's literally nothing you can't do like that. So don't let anybody let you feel conscious or you're too young or any of that kind of garbage. I love being underestimated. I love walking into a room and having people underestimate me because I was a young girl or because I got frizzy hair or because who the heck knows why, but like, whatever, I'm just gonna prove it. I'm gonna work harder, I'm gonna do better, and I'm gonna get it done. And like, that's that. So as long as you know in your heart you're gonna get it done, then you should be confident, because the only person who matters, who thinks about you, is you. It's what you think about yourself. And that's it. Doesn't matter what the other guy or that other girl that's looking at you all weird thinks. Makes no difference. It's what you think. And just lie to yourself. If you get unconfident in a situation, just remember, lie to yourself. Say, I know this stuff. I'm the best. I'm going to get it done.
Yeah. Woo! Fake it till you make it. Fake it. That is the motto of my life.
But I don't mean fake it. I do not mean fake it. I'm sorry to a little bit just clarify on that. Never fake it. Never ever tell anybody anything that you don't know. Just say, I need time to figure it out. Don't ever, ever, ever do that, because if you fake it, you're screwed. You just ruined your reputation.
No.
Do you know what I mean?
Let me clarify. When I say fake it till you make it, I meant your internal confidence. That's what I meant.
Yes.
That's what I meant.
Yes.
Like, even if you're not feeling confident, if you stand up a little straighter and you say, let me get back to you, even though on the inside you might be dying, that's what I mean about fake it till you make it.
100%.
There you go.
I respect that. But there should be nothing about you that doesn't believe that you're the best, because you're the best you could possibly be. There's nobody else that could be that person. So you're the best of that.
There you go. Damita?
If I could weigh in on that, especially being someone who's kind of arrived at my career a bit younger, I think it's also important to note in some cases, age does not necessarily translate to wisdom. You may be the youngest person in the room, but you also may be the smartest, the most talented, the most potential. And I don't say that to discredit age and wisdom because I think it's an important thing. But sometimes we make an assumption that because they're older, they are better, and that's simply not the case. Go in the room, own it, and do your thing.
Thank you, Damita. Does anybody else have anything to add to that?
I'm going to go back to the fake it, because I think you fake it till you become it, right? You fake it, like you might say what Jordan said, I love that, that's called bridging. Let me get back to you on that. That's a bridging statement. Like, it doesn't mean I'm not going to get back to you and I don't have thoughts on it, but say I may be getting back to you and become it because you study up and you're willing to put in the work. I will say this, and this is a sentence I repeat to myself a lot. When telling the story of your life, don't give someone else the pen. And so say that to yourself, like, why would you give somebody else the pen? At some point, if you haven't read the 4 Agreements, I'm begging you to read the 4 Agreements. It's a great book. You can't make assumptions about people. That's one of the 4 Agreements, but you also can't take things personally. So do your best not to take it personally, but take that damn pen and write your own story.
Yeah. 2 things, if I could. One, because I got to follow up with another book. So if you haven't, because confidence, I think, in women in business is a big theme. And we'll probably talk more about it, I assume, with some of Vanessa's questions. But there's a book called The Confidence Code. And it's this DNA strand that women have that kind of holds it back. But it also can be our best friend, because if you consciously know, the fact that we care is okay. But if you know that there's this DNA strand that makes us, the old saying, if there's a job posted and there's 10 attributes, if a guy has 5, he's got the job. If we have 10, we create 3 more before we think we're qualified. That's not good. So have the confidence. And then just if I can, Jordan, if I can create my own little issue here, is what's wrong with, the higher you go in leadership, the harder it is to know everything, right? And so surrounding yourself and asking for help and acknowledging you don't know everything, you have to have the confidence to do that.
No, I completely agree with that. I think what I should say is, if you ask me a question and I go run to the bathroom to chat GPT, or I call my senior partner who does know everything, I would come back to you and I wouldn't talk about the GPT, but I would say, my senior smart partner who does X would love to meet with you tomorrow, and he's amazing and we know everything, Yes, so I agree. Hire yourself, yes. Surround yourself with excellence. I completely agree.
Olga?
Yeah, thank you. I had a slight sort of building on that, and maybe a lesson in confidence early on in my career. And I first started working for a museum director who was very visionary and charismatic, and I always felt like, oh my God, this is not who I am, and how can I be that? And I remember him and others saying really clearly on, I didn't hire you to be me, I need you to be you. And really understanding your strengths, and that a good leader does surround themselves with people who have strengths and qualities that they don't have, right? And that was just a really important professional and life lesson early on.
Fantastic. Thank you for sharing that, Olga. So I love a spirited and passionate discussion, so let's keep it going. So we've been talking about confidence, and I think as a female leader, over time, you also build resiliency. You have to, right? So let's talk about that. How have each of you been able to do just that? And Damita, I'd like to start with you. So how have you been able to build your confidence and resiliency in your career?
I was hoping I didn't get this question.
You can be honest.
So A couple of things about me. I am a diehard introvert. And so peopling in this place and space, I'm like, oh my goodness, look at all these people. But the best teacher to me of resilience is challenge. And I know that's hard. I became the best version of myself through struggle. A lot of people told me no, and I kicked down doors and I figured it out. A lot of people underestimated me. They said that I couldn't, they said that I wouldn't, and some even had the audacity to say I shouldn't. And every time I was like, all right, let's get it. And and you become incredibly strong in who you are and what impact you want to make on the world through that. And so now when I'm in situations where I feel challenged or I'm facing adversity, I still feel that, this is not great, but I also know this is a really good opportunity for me to level up. And I also realize that people are watching as you go through this. And so sometimes the struggle, the challenge is not just for you, but it's so that you can uplift other people to say, this is how you do it, this is how you can get through it. And so I've had a little bit of a reframing of resilience. And so now I'm kind of like, all right, let's do this. So.
Bettina.
I was also hoping this would pass.
Oh, come on.
I'm joking.
Oh,
I'm joking.
come on.
We got this. Prayer. A lot of prayer, a lot of meditation. I was going to say working out, but I really only started like 2 months ago. But I'll say working out. Okay, fine. Working out. No, really, because mind, health, spirit, we are connected that way. I would also say at some point in my life, I don't remember if it was my mom who told me this, and it created a switch to go off. Pressure is a privilege. Because if we're not in positions of decision making, then maybe we're not under as much pressure, but then maybe we don't have the ability or the realm to impact as much. So once I started seeing it as, you're privileged. There's a lot of people who would kill to have the opportunity to make decisions. Consider it a privilege. And that has set something off in me. And then just getting comfortable being uncomfortable. And if I make an ass of myself, so be it. That was not my intention. Sometimes I have to apologize. But I think that just getting comfortable being uncomfortable, and then age, being way over 50, there is something that comes with that. I've had a few experiences, and so I'm grateful for that.
Sheryl.
Gratitude's a good one. I think both your answers are amazing because I think it's not one thing, it's so many things. I feel blessed in my childhood. I never knew that there was I was never experienced at home that things weren't possible. My mom was a very successful businesswoman, so I just thought that's the way it was. And the harder it was, there's things you can control, there's things you can't control. So control the ones you can and work hard at the ones, influencing and changing the ones you can't. As you grow through your career, for me, the challenge is big. So I so appreciate so many of your guys' comments, but now it's the impact of thousands of team members that I feel like them and their families responsible for. So there's just no choice but getting it done. I don't allow myself to think differently. My daughter tells me all along that people aren't like that, and that's, I got to get over it, but I don't. People, that's the way I feel, and I can control the way I think, and it's not to fail. It's just to get it done.
Jordan.
I think I started out similar to what Sheryl said. I think I won the parent lottery. My parents happened to be right there, my dad and my mom. Yeah. So that, I got really lucky. I know that I'm super grateful for that every day because they never told me that I was any different than any boy. I mean, they never made a distinction. I had no idea that there should be some different standard or anything like that. And so I would kind of always revert to that feeling that my mom and dad gave me, which was just that, you work hard and hard work and karma pay off. So I felt that way. And then I think throughout the years, I was motivated a lot of times by people who told me straight up, you can't, you won't, just exactly what you said. And I'd be like, really? Let's go. And I think that's exactly what you said. And when you said that, it really resonated with me.
Kim?
I think leading, well, first of all, these are, so great, and I think we've all faced pieces and parts of that. I think leading by example is so key. And every day, whether it's for my kids or for people that have reported to me, in my family growing up, my dad and my mom led by example. My mom was a housewife, but she supported us. She ran the household. And my dad was my biggest champion. And I remember just a great story. I'm 18 years old. I'm working for my dad. Just got a new car. And I pull in, and we work in like a warehouse kind of building. And they're painting the flashing. And I go down for lunch, and my car is covered with silver flashing. My new red car. And I go up, and I'm 18, and I'm like, Dad, my car is just covered with paint. And he goes, come in here. And he said, gills don't cry. And I'm like, okay. And that was a very powerful lesson, because what he told me was, you know what, things are going to happen, but you've got to be strong. You've got to be a leader. And that, was a long time ago, but that lesson really resonated. So I think leading by example is just so important and such a great takeaway, because every one of us can make a difference.
Beth?
So a couple of things. I was prepping my answer, and now Kim just made me think of another story with... So my parents were very influential with me, and there were two things that I think they made me really understand. One, I am in control of everything, no matter what, and that's a huge confidence builder for me and a huge security builder. I can't control the outside world, I can't control the situations I'm in, but I can certainly control my reaction, how I process those, how I display those, and that at the end of the day is the only thing that matters. So similar to the points that were made, it's what I think of myself and how important this issue is. The second piece is too, my father taught me a very hard lesson similar to that. However, I wasn't 18, I was probably about 3. And it was my 3rd birthday party, and it snowed. My birthday's in February, I'm originally from New York, and it snowed. And they had to cancel my party, and I cried, and I was very upset. And my father said, if you were gonna make that face and pout, go in the other room, because I don't wanna see you. And then, to tell you the truth, I didn't appreciate it then, but as you get older, and I certainly didn't appreciate it that day, but as you get older, you start to realize and say, okay, I'm not going to let this ruin my day or change my behavior or give me a negative attitude about this whole thing. Now, do I get mad? I have some coworkers here. They know I get mad. They know I get frustrated. They know I get a little vocal sometimes. But at the end of the day, it's my day we're going to ruin, not anybody else's. And that, at the end of the day, is the most important thing.
Okay. Wow, I'm sort of focusing on that maybe negative modeling a little bit in terms of, the question was about resilience, right?
Confidence and resilience, how
to build resilience, yeah. I mean, I guess I credit my mom as well. My mom was an exile from Cuba who came in the 60s. She had no more than an 8th grade education. She brought me up to believe I could do and accomplish absolutely anything. And I remember her I was painting as a young kid, and she felt that I needed better painting lessons. And so she took me to this important painter where I grew up who didn't teach kids, only taught adults. And she kept going every day until, with her broken English, to convince him that I needed to be his student. And it finally happened. And that belief that you can do and you can accomplish no matter what, right? No matter the challenges, that stays with me for a long time. But at the same time, I would say that surviving anything, in some ways, is something that I've had to relearn as I've matured in my life and my professional life. Of sometimes you have to draw boundaries, and sometimes you have to say when this is what you need, and that sacrifice isn't always the answer, right? And so I'd like to think about resilience maybe differently than just suffering and surviving, right?
Thank you, Olga. That was a perfect segue because we're going to take a sharp left turn right now. So I was very intentional, actually, about asking each one of our panelists that particular question because I think that everybody builds their own confidence and resilience differently. And I wanted to really showcase that with this fantastic group of women, that you don't have to do it like you think everybody else is doing it. Do it in a way that works for you, whether you're a massive extrovert or a pro introvert, right? And so, again, thank you, Olga, because my next question is about this notion of work-life balance. And so let's get into that. I'll share, and as Nikki very graciously did at the beginning of the panel, she introduced me. She said she does this, she does that, and then I threw in, and I have 2 little kids, ages 5 and 3. And I'm not gonna lie, I too came from a strong single mother who always said, you can do whatever you wanna do. If you put the work, if you put the effort, everything is possible. And I grew up really believing that, despite the challenges along the way, but I never doubted that the world was out there for me, and it was for my taking. Now, at this age, I'm also gonna have a moment of full transparency here. I've had moments where I've thought to myself, how in the world am I supposed to do this? Work, take care of my kids, be a wife, run a household, be in the community, make an impact for others. I mean, the list is long, and there's only 24 hours in the day. So I've had those moments, and I've thought, my goodness, how is anybody sane supposed to do this and stay sane? So let's talk about that a little bit, because do you all think that that conversation about work-life balance, is it helpful, or actually can it sometimes be a bit harmful, right? When we ask continuously to push through and be strong and do all of the things, to your point, Olga, I think sometimes those boundaries and protecting ourselves is actually what we really should be doing, right? In some cases. So I'll start, actually, I want to start that way. So Beth, maybe this notion of work-life balance, you seem shocked that I asked you that?
No. So I'm going to ask everybody tonight or tomorrow to do something when you get home. Please don't do it here. Stand up, put both your arms out, lift one leg off the floor, and close your eyes, and then tell me if it was easy to balance. You can't. It's very, very difficult. And I do think the conversations about work-life balance are more harmful. It's more, am I doing what I think is the right thing to do at that moment in time? Because it's similar to a marriage. How many people have a 50-50 split with their spouse on all the household activities and their marriage? You do? How long you married? God bless you. 17? Good. It could happen, as evidenced. A 50-50 split in my life, in my world, doesn't exist, and it doesn't matter. Some days it's 90-10, and the reverse is the other day, and that's okay. And I don't have to focus every single day on, okay, did I do these 10 things to make this, whatever it is, balance? No. It's just, did I do what I think is important at that moment in time? And if I made the wrong assessment, okay, well, there's always tomorrow.
So, work-life balance. Work-life balance is every day. It's how we live. It's just the way it is. I had triplets, and so I know a little bit about work-life balance.
A little.
I had a husband that he was mayor of Phoenix at the time, and he was incredibly helpful, and so very fortunate. But it is a balance. It's a balance with your family. It's a balance with your partnership. It's a balance with your work, and you've got to set a roadmap to try to figure out how it works. To your point, some days some things are more important than other days, and you shift. But it's real. I think that women carry more of the work-life load. Some of it's just how we're wired. Some of it's mental, but it is in fact real. And I think it's okay to talk about it. But setting the roadmap and how we're going to get through it's really important. And we can't do it all. We're not superwoman, and so you really pick what's going to advance the ball for you, your family, for your job, and for your life.
So I had this woman named Patricia Harrison, and she was a mentor to me in a lot of ways. And one day I said, what's your, how do you do it all? Because she seemed to have done it all. And she says, you can't do everything all at one time. And you might think that's good advice, but to me, that was like the most offensive thing I'd ever heard. I couldn't believe it. And I thought to myself, I will never say that. I will do what I want to do, everything at one time. And then as I started to get older and try to do everything at one time, I realized that I have to prioritize things. And so for me, it's not work-life balance. I mean, I consider my work my hobby, so it's sort of my life. So it's just like life balance. And I think of it I do this every year, and I say, here are the things that matter to me. And, my kids are at the top, and I won't tell you my things, but in any case, I have 5 things. And if something falls outside of those 5 things, I got to not do it at all. So that might even mean little things like going to the grocery store. Like, you know what? If I pay $5 to some guy on a DoorDash, he can go get me groceries, and I don't like to cook, and I don't pick anything very unique, and I'm not good at it. So that wasted, 20 minutes of my day, and that's not in my 5 things. You may like to cook, so it might be your top thing, but that's like that. I'm horrible at that. And so, if you keep within those parameters, it's very difficult. And I actually have my assistant in my office who's kind of like my wife, if I had a wife, and and she was this great to me. I say to her, here are my 5 things, right? And she'll say to me, why are you going on that trip? And I'll be like, oh, it's not with your kids. It's not with your boyfriend. It's not, how did that fit into your deal? Hey, canceling that. You're right. I could do that later. And so if you stick to yourself, now sometimes you have to readjust these things, but then it's all good. And then I would say all these apps that they do stuff for you that's just time consuming and not really productive for a very small amount of money. Just do that, If you spend a whole day cleaning your house and you can pay somebody to do it, and then you can do something more productive, maybe that's a good cost-benefit analysis for your life and your time management. You're just thinking about how to save time, because I think you make money in order to have time. You make money for what other reason? Just to be able to buy time to do stuff that matters, to you, whatever that is.
It's such a big topic. It's a 2-day workshop. I don't think there's such a thing. I don't think there's a good way to talk about it. That's why I think we'll all talk about it a little different. It's life, and everyone's view of what balance is different. So I don't have to sleep a lot. Others need 10 hours a night. So everyone's got a different perspective. But I guess there's a few things I'd add. One, I think as a gender, we have to learn to give ourselves grace for some of the things that we think we're supposed to be an expert at everything, and we're supposed to get it all done, but we can't. But then we're so hard on ourselves, which adds stress to our life, which hurts the balance. I mean, I am a mom of 3, a grandmother of 5, a few thousand employees, hundreds of shareholders that think they're my boss. And there's no such thing. Customers that can call, on New Year's Day or 10 at night. And so you just have to make those choices one at a time. And then if you can't get something done, to your point, priorities, I really believe grace is a really big part of it.
What she said. That's it. It's grace. Because I've tried a lot of different things, and I think a lot of times I was putting myself in the paradigm of others' definitions of balance instead of my own, again, taking back the pen of like, wait, I don't really need that much sleep, and I love to cook. I'll cook for you. Okay, I'll cook for you, Jordan. But the point being is you do have to define it for yourself, and I've tried everything. I've tried antidepressants when I lost a child. That didn't work so great for me. It works for some people, though. So I think it's not a static question. It's a fluid one where at different phases of your life, you're having to determine what are your needs? What is balance? What are the needs of the people you love the most? And so it's a question that's ongoing, but I'm now trying to be better about the practice of being present. So when I'm at work, I'm fierce. I am fierce, I am focused, not always. Mostly I'm like, can we go to lunch yet or happy hour? But I do try to be focused, right? And be present at my work and be very present and be focused. And then when I'm with my 3 kids, I'm really present with them. And we have wonderful memories. I don't know where the hell they are tonight. They were supposed to show. So clearly I have no fuel. But I will say just practicing being present and allowing, full of grace, love that, celebrating even small moments of joy. That is very important. I don't think we celebrate enough. We're like, the next goal, right? No, celebrate some of these moments in life, the ordinary being extraordinary. But actually, it's a practice, and I'm just learning it.
That's great. Damita, I think you're chomping at the bits.
I agree with everything that has been said so far. I think if I could add, I'm not sure that I fully believe in work-life balance either as a concept. I think it's different for everyone. I will say I do believe that the concept puts unnecessary pressure on women to be great at everything all the time. And I think the very notion of how we use that, isn't it interesting that work is the first part of that? Why don't we call it life-work balance? Because at the end of the day, your life should be the most important thing, however you choose to define that. Someone told me once before, as much time as I spend at work and as good as I think I am at my work, if something were to happen to me, they are going to replace me. But my family, my friends, my support network, those are the people that are going to remember me forever and find it impossible to replace what I meant to them. So as we make decisions about what's important and what our priorities are, I try to look at it in that lens. With that being said, I think as women, there are times that you have to just be all in on your professional career because opportunities have an expiration date, and you want to take advantage of those when they make sense. A little quick story. I had known for a while that I'd always wanted to be a vice president of student affairs, and for circumstances, timing didn't align with my expectations of that. I finally got the nod to step into a temporary role to be the vice president of student affairs at an institution while I was working on my PhD. And so I had to make a difficult decision. Do I take the opportunity, or do I stay steadfast on finishing up my degree, which would help me indefinitely? I chose both. And it was crazy, like absolutely crazy, because I stepped into a new role, greater responsibility, supervising people. Apparently I like challenge. I did my research in Liberia, so all of my interviews were like 11-hour time differences at times. But you figure it out, and I told myself, this is a time that I have to go all in on myself, and you get real creative on how you get to spend your time. I think we forget sometimes as women that we are in some spaces and places like superheroes. And if there's anybody that can figure out how to get a lot of stuff done in a small amount of time, it's us. I was doing interviews with people in Liberia in the parking lot of my job at 7 a.m., knowing that the interview was an hour long, it would conclude at 8, and look, I'm already at work, let me go in here and do this job. It was long nights. I am triggered by Panera because I spent so much time in Panera. But going back to that resiliency thing, you learn something about yourself in those moments. But what helped me, and we talk about that work-life balance, I sometimes think we think about what it means for us, but surround yourself with great people who believe in you and support you, because that's the other part of work-life balance. You need a squad, like you need a ride or die squad that's like, we got you. I had friends picking up dry cleaning, dropping off lunches, like it was a group effort. In the most sense. So I think as you think about work-life balance, think about all those pivot points, and it really is what makes sense to you and where you want to be and what impact you want to make.
Wow. Wow. Okay, my job here is done. No. I can't even comprehend how you did that. I'm just saying, coming, also working in academia, oh my goodness. There's a sort of overarching theme here that I'm hoping our audience tonight can connect with, and that is, if you, and I want to say this is important, I think, if you are in a position of leadership, by the way, leadership comes in many forms. It doesn't necessarily mean the title, but if you're in a position of leadership or in a position where you can make decisions and set the tone, please create spaces that understand that people have lives outside of work. Because, again, I've been in spaces both that did not acknowledge that, and I know how detrimental and how damaging that was. I don't personally believe you get the best out of people when you don't allow for the understanding that sometimes things happen. And as long as the job gets done, it's okay. It's okay. And so again, I really want to encourage, again, if you're here in this room tonight and you have that sort of influence or are looking to have that sort of influence, please create those kinds of work environments, because those positive environments are the ones that keep the talented women going. So with that said, is there something you want to say, Olga?
I just wanted to add to that or build on what you just said, because I think part of that is also us talking openly about what work-life balance looks like. Because I think as we went down the row, there was a lot of dimension put on that in the different ways. But I think the not talking about it or feeling like it's stigmatized or you'll just figure it out, you just have to figure it out as an individual is certainly not being received well by younger people in the workforce. But putting dimension on how you build that resilience and but also us being willing to say what we need, right, to have that work-life balance instead of leaving it as something we just don't talk about but we have to figure out.
Well, and it's all right, creating that space where people feel like they can speak up and say those things. Again, to me as a leader now, I have a team of 120 people. I want to be that person that they know they can come to and speak to, because again, I'm going to get more out of my team down the road if I'm able to support them, right, in all of the ways that they may need to be supported, not just as a little worker bee. So with that said, can somebody keep me honest on the time? How much time do we have left? I want to make sure we're doing well. So maybe we have time for one or two questions, and then we'll do Q&A. I think it's time for Q&A. Let's stand for Q&A. I see you fanning the fan, Bettina.
Menopause. I mean, is that too much information, or TMI? Did I make that sound? TMI.
No,
not sorry.
No, sorry, not sorry. This is real talk. So we've talked about a lot of things. I think, to your point, Sheryl, this could easily be a 2-day workshop. There's so many topics that we could go into that we didn't have a chance to discuss. Imposter syndrome, right? Dangerous behaviors that could derail your career. So if some of you are so inclined to our panelists, and maybe you want to grab them afterwards and maybe have a quick one-on-one, if there's a burning follow-up that you have, please, that's what we're here for tonight. But in the meantime, this is really now opening it up to your questions, your comments, and your feedback. So please don't be shy. If there's anything that you want to ask of our panelists, this is the time. And like Nikki said, we'll have folks walking around and we'll give you a microphone. So raise your hands, please. Oh, I see a hand right there. Do you need a microphone? Oh, you can project. Do you mind standing up? Thank you. Yes.
So, two things. I truly believe I could work for anybody if I thought it was a good career move. Having said that, though, that doesn't necessarily mean I respect them. No, it's very true. So I used to work for an organization, and you were allowed to ask anybody who was above you to do an evaluation on you. And it was a partnership, so it was very important, like the key partner, this person was the biggest money maker in the practice, so everybody was asked him to do an evaluation on him. He wasn't a very nice person. So I never asked him to do an evaluation on me, which had a negative impact on my career, because everybody was like, well, how come you don't ask him to do an evaluation? And I sat down with my boss and I said, I don't respect him, so I don't really value his assessment. And if it was a positive assessment, then I'd be really conflicted, thinking that I was doing things wrong because I really didn't want to emulate his behavior. And if he did give me a negative one, I'd have to disregard it or be happy because he gave me a negative one. So I'm like, there's a no-win here. So I think there's a difference between saying, I can be in an adverse situation. I always have an option, or I always feel I have an option, and it's just an option. Am I going to put up with it, or am I not going to put up with it? But at the end of the day, if I don't respect you, I could still work with you. That's fine. It just doesn't bother me anywhere near as much. I know it sounds a little cavalier, but it's like, if you meet somebody, right? If you meet somebody and you really don't have respect, you don't ever want to emulate their behavior, you learn behaviors that you never want to do yourself. Okay, that's, again, it goes back to their day versus my day.
Thank you, Beth.
Hi, everyone. For the panelists, I have a question about those who are fortunate enough to kind of be escalating up the career ladder and have started seeing out some of their junior years and are now starting to mentor other young women and those who are entering the workforce. So as we do that, do you have any recommendations on truly what it means to be a mentor to the next generation?
Anybody want to take that one on?
Okay, I'll take it. I think it's critical. And I think back early in my career, I didn't want to be the single female in home building, so I ran from it. I went to interviews and talk about it. I didn't want to be the one that was a woman. I wanted to be respected for the job that I was doing and how I got that job, and not that, well, maybe because they needed a woman. So it took me a long time to get the confidence to say, actually, I need to own this. And, you know, we have such a need in our country today. I just read a piece of research, you guys, that says for the first time in a couple of decades, women in the C-suite have gone backwards. And now they're saying for us to get parity in senior jobs and in C-suite jobs, that senior jobs is going to take us out to probably 2035, and C-suite jobs probably 2050, because of the ground we've lost in the last 12 months. And then there's a lot of other algorithms that say it could take a lot longer. So, side note, but I went from that point in my career to saying I'm running from it to I'm running to it. Because you have to really appreciate what the impact of all of you can do wherever you work, and the fact that there's diversity of thought and thinking in the workforce. And so it's our responsibility. And, you know, I hope that it's old adage that women pushed other women away. But unfortunately, it's happened way too many times. I would ask you all to embrace, because if we're going to make a difference in the workforce in our organization and make companies better and create a place for our children and grandchildren, we all need to put our arms around other women and be there for them.
So while we go to our next question, I just want to add to that. Lift up others as you climb, right? Lift up others, because there is plenty for everybody to go around. Please, there is plenty. We've all had those situations with other women that have been less than positive. Let's not be that. We need each other, and we need to continue to support each other. That's what tonight is about.
I feel like, I just wanted to add really quick, I've always felt a little bit like, I'm not a scientist, but, you know, evolution and women, you know, the 5 women, you know, tigers fighting for the one male, and that it's just kind of come to this with all of the women, you know, just all kind of catty nonsense and that sort of thing. And so I always say to the young girls that I'm mentoring, like, just try to like resist it, because it might be something in us, and you just gotta like fight against that like all the time, because that's nonsense, right? I mean, it's just such nonsense. It might just be something that we've got and we just need to get over it, so.
Yes?
Yes, I have a question. Throughout my career, I've heard and received a lot of feedback about what professionalism looks like. And I know you all talked about the confidence inward, you know, on what skill set you have. But I think there's a lot of people really wanting and asking for how to show up authentically at work as yourself, you know, hair color, tattoos, what you're wearing, right? And still be taken seriously and still get to those executive levels. So what would be your advice on how to show up authentically, but still be taken seriously?
I'm going in on this one. I'm going in on this one. I think it's so important, and if you don't leave with anything else that I've said tonight, I think it's so important to know who you are and be that person on purpose. And you go find the place that accepts you for being you on purpose. You, like, the days of us trying to force fit, round peg, square hole, it's no more. Like, I am so good with being Damita. I have a fairly high level position, but there are some things that are not going to change about me. My nails are going to be on point. People know me by it. My shoes are going to be crazy. But that's a part of who I am. And if someone would rather focus more on the attributes versus what I bring and the value add to a table, that's not the place for you. So be you and be you on purpose.
maybe, Jordan, I just want to ask down the row there, because I think this is a perfect opportunity. So museums are creative spaces typically, right? And so I think that's a space that lends itself to people really feeling like they can express who they are in all those ways, shapes, and forms. But down this row, I mean, I think that's a great question, because that's a lot of what I hear, frankly, from my younger employees, right? They want to come to work and truly be themselves, and then sometimes are bumping up against maybe some older ways, traditional ways of thinking of what professionalism looks like. So I'd like to hear your thoughts. I know you're chomping. You're like, but maybe Olga and then Bettina. How does that sound? Good.
No, I think that's true, that in museums, I think the culture has been more open, right, to celebrating difference. And so, but I think it's not always true in larger museums. You know, there's just different cultures, and it's kind of challenging that. Yeah, I wouldn't say it's where it needs to be, but I'm all, I think you said it earlier, right? Be yourself. And if it's not the right space, find the right place, right?
Find the right place. Bettina, thank you. Bettina, did you want to say?
So this is very, probably not very dynamic answer. It's just sort of my own experience and what I'm looking for. I'm looking to work with people who are direct but kind. And the great biographer, David McCullough, I don't know if you all have ever read anything by David McCullough, just incredible, lost him a few years ago, great loss. And he said there were 3 attributes of leadership or professionalism, and I've sort of embraced that. And number 1 is your origin story. You have a good leader or a good teammate has to be able to know who they are, and they have to be able to express it, right? You have to know your origin story. No matter where you come from or what you come from, you have to be able to express it. Second is a command of language. So you have to have a lexicon to people so that people can say, oh, I understand, like I may not have grown up in Spain, but you're saying something that I can relate to. So it's a command of language. And thirdly, what I'm looking for, and this was his third in leadership or professionalism, is someone who can bridge. You bring likely and unlikely people together. It's not all about likeness, right? It's about setting that table that is very diverse in perspective, but the dynamic can then lead to this world of creativity that's not status quo, that's outside of that, that's problem solving. So those are the things that I look for in wanting to. I don't know if that helps.
If I would just add one sentence, you can never be your best self if you're trying to be somebody else. So to be your most authentic self, just own who you are.
I'm going to say sitting, actually. But I've often confused leadership because I have chosen to laterally move instead of vertically move, and they don't know what to do with me. And I think as like a mentor, now that I have, people that are looking up to me, I encourage lateral movement, but that's not seen as growing in leadership. So I think as we're sitting here with leaders, right? What does that mean to you? And isn't it okay to sometimes just want to be the best that you are without the title, without saying, I want to be a director. I don't maybe want to manage people. Like maybe I don't, sorry, I'm kind of shitty at that. Like I'd rather just grow and be the best that I can be at this role. But does that seem like unsuccessful? Does that seem like I'm not growing because I'm not getting the title of a director, of an executive, of VP, of CEO? It's like, why can't I just be really, really good at what I am and have people learn from that? And I think, like, looking at this panel, quote unquote leadership, does that always mean that you have to be leading? And I think, like, I just love your perspective on that.
Can I just say something really quick here, please? Are you happy doing what you're doing?
Well, that's a loaded question.
That's not a loaded question. I meant, like, are you happy?
I am happy with the trajectory that I've had, and I'm happy that the timeline that I've had, and that I've learned how to do everything in different roles. Now, currently, no. So if anyone's hiring, I'm just kidding. No, but yes, I am happy with the path that I've taken. Yes,
Here's why I'm asking you, because this is a lesson that I've learned over time, and that is, as long as you're happy, and happiness ebbs and flows. We all have bad days, we all have had good days, right? But in general, if you're happy, if what you're doing is fulfilling you, who cares what others' expectations are, what you think you should be doing? The only thing that matters is what you want to do for your life and what makes you happy. You were about to say something?
I like what you said. I mean, I just think that it doesn't matter what your title is. It doesn't matter really what you're doing, as long as inside you feel good about what it is, and you feel like you're using your every given gift that you were given, in the best possible way, then you should be super satisfied because you're doing amazing.
And I will tell you, once you kind of own that, and I can't tell you how I connected when you said I feel like I'm kind of shitty at managing people, because I also ran away from management people for many years. To feel like you only owe yourself any explanations and not live up to any other folks' expectations is incredibly liberating. So I hope you get there, and sooner rather than later.
I just add one thing, because I had a conversation one time with a guy named Jack London, who was a really great guy, and we were sitting outside at a restaurant, and there was a beautiful garden. It was in the Biltmore area, and he says to me, "Do you know who in this restaurant is using every bit of their God-given gifts right now?" And I said, this guy was a genius entrepreneur, and I'm like, "Of course, it's you, Jack. You're doing it." And he says, "No, I'm not right now, and neither are you. But you know who is? And it's that guy right there who's clipping those trees and to make it look like some kind of animal, because I bet you he's not that well educated." Now, he was making a lot of inferences, but he said, but he's using every God-given talent to do a perfect job at that job that he's doing, and you're not doing that right now. Think of all the God-given gifts that you're not using today. And it haunted me. And it haunts me nearly every day, because I think, wow, there's so much more. And it challenges me and makes me happy too at the same time.
It's on.
First of all, I want to thank the museum for creating this space, because I think it's so important that we have these opportunities to hear from everybody. I feel like sometimes, I think somebody mentioned earlier that the conversation and talking about it and not staying in our silos, we don't know what we don't know. And so I think this is really important for us to hear from everybody, each other. But recently I feel that there seems to be a little bit of a backlash with certainly the DEI initiatives, and also even tonight, as wonderful as this is, how many people that saw the event might have looked at the title and kind of said, "Oh, it's another women's thing." And I wonder, what do you think the trajectory is for this? This is great tonight, but I'm nervous that it's slipping backwards, and it's certainly with the negative backlash with the conversation that we're trying to move forward.
I'm hopeful that one day we don't have to have these women panels, that it's just people, because we're not thinking like that.
Yeah, DEI is moving backwards. You're right. Just like those other stats I gave, the stats today are suggesting people are scared to talk about it. So that pendulum has swung so far. I think, Jordan, you're so right. We've won when it's not the conversation anymore. But it goes back to controlling what we can control. It's about belonging. It's about making an impact. And if each one of us do that, then forget the stats. We will make an impact, but we can do it one person at a time and not worry about the optics and the political nature, because it is what it is. But look at the things that matter. Look at the impact women are having. Look at how many women are graduating college today. Look at the opportunities that are available with private equity money today. And I think to your last question about, and this might not be popular, so I'll apologize in advance, but kind of your question around, what can I do? What should I do? Sheryl Sandberg, I think she's such a talented woman, but I think she put more pressure on women to accomplish things that maybe weren't right for them and lean into what's right for you. And I think if we all do that, we'll make a difference, and we will keep that boulder going uphill.
I love just not the esoteric, the dynamic nature of the question. I don't think it's ever an either or. We can hold more than one truth at the same time. And that truth can be, there are so many things as women we need to celebrate and find joy in, again, celebrate. And at the same time, can we not acknowledge that we have a long way to go? We have a long way to go in pay equity. I was going to say a lot of other things, too political. But we have a long way to go, and we can hold both truths, right? When we barely started voting in 1919, when women needed a man to co-sign when you needed a loan in the 1980s, that's like my lifetime in the 1980s. And so we can do both. We can be joyful, we can celebrate the occasions where we have made progress, but at the same time, we have some ways to go. And it's really okay in safe spaces to look for our allies. See? Your phone agrees.
Your phone agrees.
Oh,
Nikki! I'm sorry. What did you say at the beginning of this panel? Okay.
Nikki, it's your conscience calling.
Beth, I think you had something to add, and then we'll put a bow on it, as they say.
Oh, I'm going to be the last. Well, the one thing I want to say, especially to the younger or women in the room or those earlier in their career, think every day and make a conscious decision to take a position on something. You don't have to take the position that I took or the one that Olga took or the one that Kim agrees with. Think. Because what's happening right now in the world, whether it's politics, culture, or backward slide on DE&I, or backward slide on C-suite participation or representation, if you think, you will take a position, and then don't try to fight the system. Work through change, or work through the system to make change. But you gotta think and take stuff seriously.
And one last thing. It all starts here. Each and every one of you can make a difference.
So, as we get ready to conclude tonight's conversation, I want to ask each of our panelists this last final question, 30 seconds each. And please, for every single person in the audience, take hopefully what they're about to share with you and everything else that you've heard tonight and run with it. Okay, so we're going to start with Olga down there. Olga, if you could go back in time and have coffee with your either 25-year-old self or maybe 30-year-old self, what would you say to that Olga about life, career, all of the things? 30 seconds.
To really have the confidence in what I want and what I believe, and to center my values first and foremost. Yeah. And stand by it. And I would say not sacrifice. I wouldn't make as many sacrifices as I made along the way, and would have centered my happiness more. Not that you don't have to sacrifice and work hard and do those things and take that tough road when you have to do it for a short period of time, but center your happiness.
Thank you.
That's a tough one to follow. I think what I would tell my my earlier person, and I'd prefer to have a glass of wine as opposed to a cup of coffee. But it would be, seriously, you don't have to always be right. You have to collaborate to get to the right collective decision. And that's a really, really big difference, because much earlier in my career, I hated if I was wrong. I really do. I was miserable. And I'd agonize over it, like, oh, I made a mistake, it's wrong, and this and that. As opposed to now, I hopefully work with my teams so that we collectively do the right thing to move my organization forward.
Thank you. Kim?
Yeah, I think know that the opportunities are just so vast, and to go out and grab them. And when you hit a wall, figure out how to get around it.
I think everything happens for a reason, and even the bad things are really good because they're just there as things that will allow you to sort of learn and level up in life. And so if you look at even the biggest challenges that make you, really upset, when you look at them in a way of, what is this teaching me? What is this giving me? What is the gratitude that I have for this horrible thing that's happening? You get to a better place. And I think I would tell myself that, and it probably would have saved me a lot of anguish and crying and those kinds of things. So.
Sheryl, what would you say to your 25 or 30-year-old self?
I think I would have reminded myself much earlier that this isn't a dress rehearsal. So live every day, because you really don't know what's around the corner from someone who came that close. Enjoy it. Don't have any regrets. Don't wish something else happened. It's a choice, and make the right ones for you.
Bettina?
Go to happy hour with Laura and karaoke more. We loved to karaoke, so that would have been fun when I was young. Ask your parents or loved ones more questions. I wish I'd done that. Practice gratitude more. And worry is such a waste of time. All I know is that I spent 1992 sleepless, and today, can't remember why. So, I worried about so many things, and it's so wasteful. So just be present, be joyful, ask your loved one questions, and be a good listener.
It's okay to not be okay at times. I think that's the thing I would tell myself. And all storms are a precursor to some really bright days. So,
Fantastic. I think the only thing I will add to that is I would just say to 25-year-old Vanessa, live for your own expectations, not the ones that you have for others around you. Work and live your life doing the things that make you happy, not thinking about what makes others happy. I think that's what I would say. So can we please give this incredible group of women the biggest round of applause? Wow. Standing ovation. Amazing. Thank you, ladies, so much for your time, for your wisdom, for sharing of your journeys. Again, like I said, we could have gone much longer, but alas, it's time to wrap up. So thank you, everyone. We will be having more of these, right, Nikki? This is the first one, and there's more down the road. So thanks, everyone. Have a fantastic evening.